Happy New Year and welcome to Team Kings, showcasing team spirit at Kings High School. And what better way to do our first show of 2018 than to bring the principal in, Bob Ruhlman. Bob, thank you for coming in today, and I just want to talk briefly about your background at Kings. How did you get started there? Where were you before that, and what does Kings mean to you?
Wow. Well, good morning.
A loaded question, right?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I was born and raised in Whatcom County up near Bellingham and was exposed to Kings. Back in those days, it was Kings Garden every once in a while through sports. And so I saw the red and white Knights and always looked up to them as a Christian school in the Seattle area. As a young man, I grew up as a pastor's son in Whatcom County. And so those were my first exposures to Kings. And I was educated in San Diego and returned to Seattle as I truly was working for a different ministry at Christa. I was at camps for 2 summers and loved my time there. It was very important to me to be in service there at Island Lake Camp over on the Kitsap Peninsula. And that last summer, I had graduated from college and I really didn't know exactly what was coming. I was a history teacher. I had applied all over the West Coast for positions, and it was a difficult time for teachers at that time, but there was an opening at Kings. And so I pursued that. The gentleman I replaced, I had a 1-year opportunity. He was writing a textbook, and they hired me. And I've been there ever since. So that was 24 years ago.
Wow.
And that was a great time early in my career. And the principal at the time just said, "Bob, I want you to stay, and we really appreciate what you're doing in the classroom." And so that was my beginning at King Schools.
Was it a situation where you knew almost instantaneously that, hey, I want to be here long term? I know a lot of times when people end up staying in one place for many years, sometimes it has to kind of grow on them a little bit. What was it like for you? Did you have that early feeling that you were in a pretty special place and it meant?
I had a great respect for the school, even prior to my service time at the school, but there's no question, right away I fell in love with the culture at the school. It was a special place, and a number of the faculty members kind of took me in as a young educator and mentored me and helped me become the classroom teacher that I was, and ultimately the leader and influencer that I am today. So very much, I've really never seen a different path. I felt called to King Schools and the work at Christa, and I wouldn't ever give that away. It's been very special to me each and every day. I love what I do.
Very nice. And now you became principal when?
I was assistant principal in 2001. I was hired to be assistant principal, and I served for 2 years as assistant principal, and then 4 years as a co-principal, so I served alongside of a colleague as a co-leader. And then in 2007, I became the principal at Kings.
Very nice. And the fun question for me to ask, especially in 2018, 2007 versus 2018, how have things changed? Obviously, back when you first became a principal, you didn't have to worry about what a student was putting out on social media. Twitter wasn't around, Facebook. How has that changed the dynamic of the job and maybe other things as well?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say that probably more than anything was the first thing that came to mind was technology, how technology has changed the role of an educator, not only at my level as an administrator, but in the classroom. You know, back in the day, we had very much scenarios where you couldn't tell the difference between 1979 and 1989. And now that is not true. Things are changing at such a rapid pace. We are seeing day in and day out the transitions of the economy and the influence of technology that has changed the classroom. And so whether it be one-to-one, so we've now adopted Microsoft Surface tablets for each of our freshmen and sophomores. Next year, the new incoming freshmen will be a part of that program. So 3 of our grades will all be required to have these tablets. And our teachers are using those in instrumental ways. We're preparing kids for an economy and a world that we don't even know what it will look like in 10 years, because it's changed so much even in the last 5 years. So that's definitely the biggest change that I've seen.
Trying to project and stay ahead of the curve, it's always a challenge, definitely. As far as the school year itself so far, give us a little State of the Union, first few months of the school year. How did things go, and what are the expectations for the rest of 2018?
It's been a fabulous school year. It's been one of those years where there's just always different things going on at any given time, in any given week. There's a dozen things happening at the school, beyond even the normal day in, day out work that happens in each and every classroom. You've interviewed a few of our students that have had wonderful experiences and success over the course of the year, a couple of state championships in the fall, and some great things that happen, some challenging things that happen on a given basis. But what I've been most excited about at our school continues to be the spiritual environment. As a Christian school, it is really the center of who we are in our community. And one of the things that has been most meaningful to me is the student-led chapel programs and the vision that they've cast this year, which is a beautiful statement. It's stop for the one. And stop for the one basically means that the Lord's placed people in our lives, whoever they may be, and we're called to stop for that individual person, whoever God has brought to us. And it may be a person that you never would have expected. It may be a person that's a lifelong friend you don't know, but on any given day, God will bring that person across your path, and we are called to stop for them and understand, listen, truly take all of our energy and gain an understanding of where they are. If they're struggling with something, how can we support them? Things of that nature. So that's been my greatest blessing, is just the continued excitement and enthusiasm for the gospel at the school. It's a real school. We have 475 students. We have kids that wrestle with life, and that's a real thing. That is something that I cherish as well. We get to walk with kids as they go through life's challenges as well. And that's why we're there.
We're just coming out of the winter break right now. You've been back for a few days anyway. I know even when things are going great, even reflecting back on my own time as a high school student, we always enjoyed winter break. We always enjoyed having that chance to recalibrate and get rested up. Is it the same for the administration? Is it the same for the principal of the school?
Yeah.
What does winter break do for you? Are you busy during winter break?
Sure. I love winter break. To me, Christmas break it's my favorite time of year. When I was a little boy, I used to tell my parents, let's tear down our house and build a Christmas house. So it's always been meaningful to me, just the festive nature of Christmas and the birth of our Savior. It's very special to me on a personal level as well. But for me, it's a change of gears. It is a very, very high demand job, and when you're in education. And so the month of December is a absolute sprint, and I really do try to kind of kick it into a lower gear. My wife and I were married on December 17th, so 23 years ago. Our anniversary always falls right around homecoming. I've missed the anniversary, well, not missed the anniversary, but homecoming's fallen on the same night many times over the years. And so we always plan something for that, so we were able to get away for a couple days, just she and I. And but it's just, we try to bring it way down. And I'm often involved in different gatherings and social festivities and so on during the course of the year. And so I really like to try to bring that to a lower pace as well and be with the girls. I have 3 daughters that are all King students in the high school. I have a freshman, sophomore, and senior. So we're all about the school. But besides the fact that we did host a neighborhood party, Christmas party with some Christmas carols and some chili and things like that, we had a great time with that. We really tried to keep it low key, so it was very restful and relaxing.
And ready to go for the rest of the school
year?
Yeah,
we're ready to go. You bet.
And I should mention too, and we talked about this with Rick Skeen when he was in here a couple weeks ago. What's unique also about Kings is that you do your homecoming right before winter break. Talk a little bit about what that means in terms of, especially for somebody like yourself who's been there for so long now, and you've seen thousands of kids go through the school at this point. What does it mean for you to have those kids come back, or those adults now coming back during homecoming week, and what was it like this year?
Yeah. We love seeing our alums. To see them come back in the building is precious. It's very special. And so we have an alumni coordinator that really owns that, and she spends her days preparing basketball tournaments for our alumni. Our volleyball tournament happened over the break as well. And but that actual evening where homecoming, basketball game, and then the festivities following, the dances, the coronations, all those kinds of things, just to hug those kids, welcome them back into our community is a blessed thing. I look forward to it every year.
Very nice. You talked about your relationship with Kings and what it means to you. I know one of the things that I know you're very passionate about. We've talked about this in the past. What Kings is in terms of how it was founded and what it represents. Talk a little bit about the earlier days of Kings and how it came about.
Yeah. Well, I was raised in such a way where my father actually made it really clear to me when I first got the job teaching at Kings in 1994. I remember walking around the beautiful campus. There's 60 acres of just wooded, beautiful North Seattle history, the beautiful Tudor-style buildings that just are so special. We walked around, and he reminded me, he said, Bob, this place was founded on the sacrifice of men and women before you. You won't even know some of their names. And never, ever forget that. And I don't. I really take that seriously. I feel like I am, and our faculty and the community, we're standing on the shoulders of men and women that have sacrificed in the past and carried on the tradition of King's Garden and Christa Ministries. So every time I walk around that campus, the Lord kind of reminds me of that fact. But I get to tell the story regularly about how in the 1940s, a man named Mike Martin was called out by God to establish a school. And we have had that great privilege of carrying on that legacy. Mike really founded the school to serve the children of Seattle that were struggling, that were facing great turmoil in life, and so on. And but it was founded really as a school that was built on the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that's never changed. That's still the core of who we are. We're a private college prep school today. We still have students that struggle. We still have adults that struggle sometimes as we go through life's journey. But it is great privilege and pleasure to, on a weekly basis, gather on Friday mornings for our chapel services where our students lead in the worship time, and we hear about what God is doing in our lives as we go through life. And so that's very important and special to me, to be a part of that sort of a community that carries on a legacy. He wrote a book called I Live by Faith that is a staple within our school, and a man of great faith. And we just hope and humbly carry on that legacy.
You're doing a great job of that. The Krista relationship.
Yes.
I know I get asked about that from time to time, and there's so many different things going on within the campus, and no matter where you go, it seems like there's senior living there, which I think a lot of people don't realize and recognize. And talk a little bit about the relationship with Kings and Krista.
Yeah. So there's 7 ministries of Krista. We're one of 7, and there are sister organizations, and we take great pride in that fact. There are many ways that our roads merge in the carrying on of one mission. And you bring up senior community. Senior living is special because it makes for an intergenerational educational experience, and we love that part of our school. It's a very unique thing about King Schools is, within 500 yards there are 600 residents who have lived lives of great importance and are there they're there for a purpose. And so we have many men and women that will come into our school community and share their experience, whether it be Ken, who comes and volunteers to serve our theater department, and he builds our sets, or John, who helps with students proctoring tests on a regular basis, working in our learning commons. This is a great one, Frenchie. I might have told you this story in the past, but Frenchie, I was in a classroom several years back. It was a history classroom. They were talking about World War II. And here was Frenchie. So we have an event called Wow Wednesday, where basically any of our senior residents can come into the school and be King students for a day. She was in the back of the room listening to the conversation. It was about the Allied troops liberating villages in France. And Frenchie stood up. Frenchie. She was a 7-year-old girl that for the very first time in months had a full meal. She ate it out of a helmet of an African-American GI, a stew. And she just shared that story in a visceral way that just made me weep. And the kids just frozen in their tracks, hearing the story firsthand, learning. Very special. So intergenerational things are great. We do opportunities around the school where our students will serve in other ministries, the broadcast ministry, World Concern, which is a national or international organization, relief and aid, where our students serve really on a regular basis and connect and so that's become very important. Internships in a formal way where they'll earn credits for those sorts of things. So very cool.
Wow, you had not shared that story with me, and I'm glad you did here, so thank you very much. Yeah. It's a K12 school, too, which I don't think a lot of people realize. Right. What does that mean in terms of how the kids are able to connect with the school itself at an early age, as opposed to just coming in their freshman year and trying to kind of figure things out? And also the fact that just because you do have a lot of students that have been there since day one, other students do in fact come in later on, and how's that transition for them?
Yeah. I love that part of the school. K12, we get to work and collaborate with our other schools, the elementary, our preschool, our elementary, and our junior high school. We work regularly with them on what the school looks like. But King's kids are our kids. They've been our kids since kindergarten. You know, I've seen these kids, whether it be doing service around the school or in the community or play ball. I've seen them playing ball since they were in kindergarten. And now they're wearing the King's Knights jerseys for the high school. And so I love that. It's just, it's a part of it's special in a private school. A lot of times private schools are high school only. And I think that's one of the great advantages of a King's education is you get that opportunity over the course of many years. My oldest daughter, who's a senior, has been here for 14 years. And so she's been a part of the community in a unique and special way. But I'll also say there are times along the way where students enter the King's community. So 6th grade, 7th grade, the beginning of junior high, 9th grade, the beginning of high school. This last year we had about 40 new students join King's at the 9th grade level.
Oh,
and that's
wow,
a very
okay.
common thing where students would enter, families would plan for their high school education to be at King's schools. And I love that because it's a new group of students that help change the culture even of that class. Every class has its own unique culture. And to have these kids come in is very special. There's a school in Everett, Mukilteo called North Shore Christian Academy that has built a very close relationship with King's. And a number of students over the years, up to 20, often will be coming from their 9th grade class to King's. And it is a wonderful addition to our school. And it makes both of our communities better.
Very nice. You touched upon it a couple times during the interview, but now I want to dig a little deeper into it. You've got 3 daughters at the school now.
Yeah.
What is that like for you as the principal? Obviously, you're not new to the school by any means,
Yeah.
but does it change the dynamic for you as a principal? And where's the line between being a principal and being a dad
Sure.
at times?
Great question. Wow. You know, I'll tell a quick story. Years ago, I was at QFC in Richmond Beach checking out, and I had my girls were little at the time, and the woman next to me said, "Wow, just 3 daughters, right? No sons." And I looked at her and I said, "Well, actually, the truth is I have 240 sons."
Very true.
And I do. I consider each of the students at King's to be my kids. And I always say they're my kids now, but someday they're going to become my brothers and sisters. And so that's a vital part of my philosophy as an educator. But having your 3 children in the school is special. It's very sacred to do so. I wouldn't change a thing. And the reason is I get to bring them on a daily basis to a school where they get to be in the classrooms and under the leadership and influence of amazing faculty and coaches that I deeply respect. And so I know I've heard horror stories of what that's like. I have fabulous girls. I'm proud of my girls. They're imperfect, just like their father, but they're amazing. And we walk through life together. They're blessed to have the mother they do. But at the end of the day, it's been a great privilege to have my girls at King's.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact that one of those girls is a state champion now on the
Yes,
soccer team.
yes,
Talk a little bit
sure.
about that experience for you. That had to be, I know you've seen other teams win state championships there over the years, but was it different being able, I know you were standing on the sideline for the state championship game.
Yes.
I stood there with you.
Right,
And
yeah, I
you
remember.
were playing, again, you had multiple hats
Yep.
on there, principal,
Sure.
administrator, keeping an eye on the kids in the stands, but also watching your daughter and your niece out on the
Yes,
soccer field, right?
Yes, yeah. It's been an amazing fall in these ways. I've seen, I think I've been at King's for every one of the state championships. So it's been 40 plus over the years. And so I had different capacities, athletic director back, years ago and so on. And I just, it's been a treasure. It's been a treat, every single one of those. To have your child on one of those teams puts it in another stratosphere. It just was unforgettable. I tried to make sure I was doing my job. I tried to make sure that our community was represented in the way that it does so well. It shines so often, and yet in those intense moments, it can be difficult. And so I had a great seat to watch a very intense soccer match go into overtime.
Shootout,
And,
yeah.
I hope I wasn't yelling too loud next to you.
No,
but,
not at all.
to watch the girls go and compete, my daughter Sophie absolutely adores her teammates. I don't think, maybe there were other parents in the community, other fans that saw that coming. But I didn't see that coming. I didn't see a state championship trophy in our office for the year. I thought we might make a little run in the playoffs, but we have such a young team that I thought maybe a few years from now there'd be a chance and an opportunity. but everything fell into place, and the girls fought. They fought and fought, and they were behind several times over the course of that run and never gave up. And it was unforgettable.
I can imagine. We just talked to athletics a little bit, but there are other programs at the school and other clubs and whatnot. Talk a little bit about some of those that are going on right now or that are maybe coming up in the spring and what they mean to the school.
Yeah. I love the spring around the school. It is full throttle. It is a time of year where we work really hard and we seek to achieve the goals set. And so a few things that come to mind, certainly our mock trial program goes into high gear. We start competing here regionally and then hopefully at the state level and maybe even beyond that. But the kids and the teachers and coaches in that program, I have such great respect for what they do. The way they take every God-given talent that they have and focus that into that courtroom. I have the pleasure of driving them down to the King County Courthouse in Pioneer Square. That's kind of one of the things that I'm like, all right, anytime you guys need that, I'll drive you down there.
Good for you.
And I get to sit in the back of the room and listen to what they're up to, and I'm blown away by the capacity and capability of young students, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, in that way. DECA, I think you're going to be meeting with some DECA students a little later today, and I tell you what, DECA is one of those programs that I love. I just couldn't be more proud of the kids. It's like, to me, it's like they go from children to adults in a snap. The way they handle themselves. Hopefully you've seen some of the things, the
I had a
ways
chance to judge
that
DECA competitions, and
Yeah.
I'm always blown away by just the maturity and how adult the students are at that time.
They really have taken the lessons that they receive in their education and apply it. I watch those kids go from their freshman year, their sophomore year, or junior year, and the way they engage me even. I'm just proud of them. So the skills they're learning there are fabulous. Robotics, we got to get the robotics students in here.
Looking forward to that.
Love what the robotics team does. Spring is intense. You know, they are all in, sometimes 24/7.
Sure.
And when it's a snow day at King's, I know the robotics kids will be there.
They're still around.
But that's one of the great things is watching what happens around the campus during the springtime. Obviously, our sports programs are very, very active. Many participants. Our tennis program has like 70 girls out.
That's what we
which
heard,
is
yeah.
so great. Just love that. Track and field, of course, is big and exciting. Baseball, all the different ones. Golf.
Never a dull moment at
So,
Kings in the springtime.
Yeah, for sure.
And hey, we've got to ask you a fun question here too. Understand, obviously the school nickname, it's the Knights.
Yep.
You are a collector of medieval
Yes,
items.
it's
And
true,
Tell me a
yes.
little bit about that. I guess a history teacher,
Wow.
so it makes sense, right? But
Yeah, I did. I taught history, and I've always had a love for medieval things for whatever reason. Maybe it's because, as a little boy, you read about the castle and the knight and all the kinds of things. And teaching history, I actually taught world history. So medieval history was a part of the curriculum that I had, and I began to kind of collect some of these things at that point. And so whether it be our mascot Lance or different logos or things of that nature, I've just always had an interest in that sort of thing. I do think that our faculty and staff sometimes kind of roll their eyes because I might go a little bit overboard. I do occasionally look on Craigslist for different things that might be appropriate to bring into the school. But a couple funny stories that over the years have developed. Things will just show up that have kind of a medieval knight kind of a concept. So I've got right in our student lounge we have it's crushed velvet knight, and I found that actually in the garbage. It's a big knight on a horse. It's got a K on the shield, the whole deal.
Right.
And we kind of recovered that, had it reframed. It's been hanging there for over a decade, and I'm always proud of that one. But across the way is another one. And it's actually a statue of a knight. And he's kind of a fiberglass looking thing, painted. He looks very real, right down to blue eyes, right through the mask and the helmet and everything like that. And I've had a few people that just can't quite handle him because he's a little too real. So at nighttime, if a faculty member is working hard in the building and trying to get things done, it kind of creeps him out. A little scary, to see that. He's about 6 feet tall, very, very realistic. And so we've ended up putting sunglasses on him so he looks good and doesn't scare the teachers.
that's not a bad way to do it.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's going to appear next.
You never
I mean,
know. You never know.
Stay tuned, right? So again, a lot going on at Kings. It's been a great year so far. And Bob, thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah.
Always appreciate talking to you.
So, Steve,
Wishing you nothing but the best in 2018.
thank you. And to you as well.
Big week coming up for those who are participating in DECA, not only at King's, but at other schools. And with us right now, two of the King students to talk about that. We've got Abby Weeks, who is a senior, Jeffrey Weber, who is a junior. And before we get going into competitions and what you aspire to accomplish there, I guess we should make sure that everybody in the audience knows, Jeffrey, what exactly is DECA for those who have never heard the term or have heard it but don't really know much about it?
Yeah, so DECA is an international student organization that's a nonprofit, and what it does is it trains students in marketing, finance, hospitality, and management, and also prepares students to be professionally responsible, academically excellent, community-oriented, and just all-around well-rounded leaders in the community. And so there's over 215,000 members worldwide, and that's at the collegiate and high school levels, and we compete at area, state, internationals, and yeah, we learn a lot.
Great job with the elevator speech. Abby, for me, DECA was always the program that I look back on now and wish I would have been more involved with. The two of you have made a wise decision. You're already doing it. How did you get involved with DECA? You've been doing it since your freshman year, is that correct?
Yes, I've been in DECA since my freshman year, and when I was signing up for classes, my brother said, take one of Mrs. Morris's class, and Mrs. Morris is our advisor. And so I signed up for marketing, and I fell in love with it, and some of my best friends have been in it, and so it's just been the greatest experience, and it's taught me a lot from simply learning how to give a proper handshake to bigger things like creating a marketing plan. And I love it, and it's something I want to move forward with when I go to college.
Very nice. And Jeffrey, do you have a similar story and experience?
Yeah, so I started out freshman year, and I had something outside of school that sort of interrupted that, but I got back into it sophomore year and went to international competition with my paper project, and just like being in that environment of international competition is really, really fun for me, and learning constantly about marketing and business is just really eye-opening for what the world has to offer in my future. Yeah.
Very nice. And it is a competitive realm here too, and we start that this week. Obviously, much like sports, you have to go from one level to the next before you can get ultimately to international. And Abby, sounds like a busy week coming up. Tell us a little bit about who's going to be competing this week and where, and how many different DECA competitors are there?
So we start at area level, which is in Linwood, and so there's 13 different areas in Washington State, and we're part of Area 2. And I think it's over like 700 students attend and compete against each other to get the top 4 or 5 spots to move on to state. And then from state, we go to internationals, which is in Atlanta, Georgia this year.
And the competitions themselves, do they range from, are they written, are you actually doing presentations? I asked that knowing the answer, but I want to hear you give it to me, Jeffrey. Tell me a little bit about what takes place at one of these competitions.
Yeah, so at area competition, students compete in role plays. So there's like 30 different categories that you can compete in, ranging from business services to my category, marketing communications, and Abby's, which is hotel and lodging. And what role plays are is you're given a set of points that you have to address called KPIs, and then you're given 10 minutes to prepare on those points with a business situation that you apply it to, and then you're given 10 minutes to present to a judge or a panel of judges about that topic.
And we should mention too, Abby, both of you, I think, and for the most part, a lot of the DECA competitors do compete in multiple categories, correct? How beneficial is that to you, and how much have you been able to learn by not just focusing on one particular element of business, but looking at different things?
Well, I think you said it exactly. You get to learn a lot more and expand your knowledge. And so we do, in the advanced marketing class at King's, we do a big project paper, and we can choose what that category is. And so I chose creative marketing, as marketing is something like I'm really interested in. And so I'm able to expand my knowledge specifically on what a marketing plan looks like and building that. Whereas Jeffrey did community service, and so he was able to apply community service to business and learn in that kinds of way. But I also have an interest in hospitality, so I am able to pick hotel and lodging as my role play and really learn a lot more about a lot of different things than just one thing. And it also being able to compete at through multiple areas, we're able to have a better chance to continue further on, not just at state, but even into internationals.
As far as when you're doing the role playing and you're in front of a judge, and I've had the opportunity to judge numerous DECA competitions, so I've had a chance to see it firsthand. Mm-hmm. Jeffrey, that first time when you have to sit in front of an adult and actually do a presentation, and maybe even for that matter now, I mean, is it nerve-wracking for you? Do you find yourself, and I know you're an athlete too, so you participate in cross country and soccer. Do you find yourself getting nervous before a big competition, or is it kind of just commonplace now because you've been doing it for a while?
Yeah, there's always nerves. definitely more when I first started out, but now that I've practiced so much and done so many presentations in front of like actual adults and not just in-class presentations, I think it's given me a bigger knowledge base so that I can feel comfortable in front of adults and not be intimidated by that. And just doing it over and over again really helps me get more comfortable and not have those nerves and butterflies in the stomach. Yeah.
Sure. Abby, same question for you. Do you get nervous before a big competition?
I think we all get a little nervous before a big competition, but Mrs. Morris, our advisor, does a great job of making sure we do role plays with adults beforehand so that when we go to area, it's not the first time we've done it. And so we're very comfortable. Our chapter does a great job at trying to be comfortable before we go in. And having done it for so long, it's kind of second nature at this point. But I still do get those little nerves.
And you've both competed internationally in the past, right? So tell me a little bit about some of the places that this has taken you to in terms of not only around the state or around the country, but internationally. Abby, where have you gone for your competitions?
So freshman year, I went to Florida, which was fun, Orlando, and so that was with a group of maybe about 15 students. And then last year, Jeffrey and I went to Anaheim in California, and that was probably about 20 or so students. And not only has that, location-wise, but it's given me great opportunities. Like I was able to land a marketing internship over one of my summers for a nonprofit, and so I was able to get that because a business had recognized that I knew what I was doing and had this information and knowledge, and so they wanted to hire me and let me learn from them.
And Jeffrey, how about you? Have you had a favorite experience? Is there a particular DECA competition that maybe you've enjoyed more than others? And maybe it doesn't have anything to do directly with the competition itself, but just the environment and the atmosphere and getting to meet folks.
Yeah, so last year was my first time going to international competition, and that was in Anaheim, as Abby said. And it's really not just the competition. You do a bunch of stuff in Anaheim. So we got to go to Disneyland, and there were tons of DECA people there. And then we got to do a night at Universal Studios, and they closed it off just for DECA.
Nice.
And so it was just like, I think there were 15,000 students from across the country that were at the competition. And so it was all of us at Universal Studios at night just having a ton of fun. And yeah, just experiences like that and being together as a chapter at the hotel and like practicing together and getting ready for competition. It's an awesome experience, and we really have fun and bond as a chapter.
Very nice. And networking is so crucial to the business world. And for the two of you and the rest of your DECA members to have that experience at such a young age is just such a tremendous opportunity. Abby, do you find that you've already met a lot of people through DECA that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise, not only through other schools around this area, but maybe in other schools? And you've already mentioned that you've worked for a company doing an internship. Have you already met a lot of folks from the business community that you've kept in touch with?
Yeah, both, yes. As Jeffrey was saying, internationals is a great place to meet people from all over because you're standing in line for your category and you're waiting to go, and there's a girl in front of you from Tennessee and there's a girl behind you from New York, and so you can talk to a bunch of people from all over the country and even all over the world and get to know just different people. And through the business world, I do have connections because of the internship. And Mrs. Morris also does a great job of, when we do projects and write papers, we get mentors. And so we reach out to the business community and say, this is the project we're doing. You're an expert in the field. Would you be willing to work with us? And so that gives us those connections for right now, but also later on in life.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Do either one of you have a favorite project you've worked on through DECA so far? And if so, what? Or maybe just share a project with us that was kind of unique and maybe that you've learned from. Jeffrey, I'll start with you on that one.
Yeah, so last year, the project that I took to international competition was a financial literacy promotion project. And I did that with my partner, Kendall, last year. And that was a really good experience because we got to sort of educate ourselves through the classroom experiences on what financial literacy is. And then the goal of our project was to share that need for financial literacy within Washington State. And so we got to present to people from H&R Block, and we attended a meeting on the state of financial literacy in Yakima, Washington, and just sort of putting ourselves out there as students who are advocating for financial literacy was really cool. And we got to meet people in the business world that were actual change makers in the field. And then creating this big project and writing a ton about it, we got to just sort of dive deeper into what financial literacy was and how we can best impact our community by sharing that.
Very nice. And Abby, what about you? Do you have a favorite project that you've worked on so far?
Yeah, so this year my project was on disaster preparedness and specifically looking at earthquakes since we are in Washington State and we do face that threat. So I really focused on my school community of Kings of what does the school do to be prepared, and then furthermore are the families of Kings prepared. So do we have emergency preparedness kits at home, in our cars, that kind of thing. And trying to get the scope of what the knowledge of preparedness is. Do people care about being prepared? And that was really impactful on me because it was a large proportion of our community wasn't prepared enough as they should be. And including my family, it was something that I learned personally and did the steps to become prepared.
Very nice. Do either one of you have time for other activities? It seems like DECA keeps you pretty busy. You're going all over the place. Jeffrey, I know you. We already touched upon it briefly. You play a couple sports. I understand you're pretty busy on Fridays also at the school, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Fridays at Kings we do worship in chapel, and so I lead worship with our worship team, and that's a really fun experience. And we all get to sing and just praise God in the mornings, and yeah.
Good for you. And then Abby, what about you? What are you involved with when you're not doing DECA?
Besides DECA, I really focus on social justice, and so the King's Social Justice Club, and they're really involved in educating ourselves on what's going on in the world and the different issues and human rights. And this year we're doing, I think it's the 4th or 5th time we're doing a Laos banquet to raise money to benefit those in Laos. And last year I went to Laos and was able to meet Lao people and learn from them, and so it's been a great experience to merge this business mindset that I've learned and also this heart for people that I have.
Outstanding work. Thank you both for everything that you're doing in that regard. And again, we should mention Thursday's the competition. How many King students are going to be in there total? I mean, I'm not expecting an exact number, but give me a rough estimate as to how many students will be there.
So there's 87 people in our chapter, so we'll all be competing there, and in each category, in each of like the 30 categories, 5 people move on to the next competition, which is state. So we're hoping for some big numbers moving into that competition because we've been training for so long and our students are really prepared and they've all been working together and learning more. So we're hopeful that it's going to be a really successful competition this year.
Very nice. And not to look too far ahead, we like to think of it as, in sports they call it one game at a time, but where are we looking to go if state and international were to take place, Abby?
So state is in Bellevue, which is fun because we get to go stay at all the different chapters stay at hotels, and so the whole hotel is basically DECA members.
And that's at the Maidenbauer Center where the competition, right? Okay.
Yes, and so it's kind of like DECA takes over Bellevue, which is fun.
Very true.
Fun to do. And then after state, we go to Atlanta, Georgia, which is fun. And that's about 25,000 members, and they take over Atlanta. And that's a really fun experience to go to internationals and be in a place where everyone really, really wants to be there because they've fought and they've worked so hard to be in that place.
And I guess the final and obvious question for both of you, and Abby, maybe a little more pressing for you because you're a senior, but with all of this DECA training and the experiences you've had in the business world, what does next year look like for you? Do you already kind of have an idea as to where you want to go to school, and what will you be studying?
So I'm kind of at the final stages of deciding where I want to go, but I'm leaning right now towards Belmont University, which is in Nashville, Tennessee. And I want to study marketing, which has been something that I never would have thought as a freshman of something that I would want to do when I moved forward. But through DECA and just fostering this love for marketing, that's what I want to focus on when I go to college.
Very nice. And Jeffrey, you have another year still. You're a junior, but have you already started to think about what the future looks like and what you might want to study?
I've been touring at some colleges and sort of looking for where I want to be in the next 2 years, I think, and still working on what I want to do, but I'm definitely interested in something marketing communications wise in the future.
Very nice. So the future is very bright for these two, especially the intermediate future. Thursday, they're going to be participating in the area DECA competition. So Abby, Jeffrey, thank you both for coming in. Best of luck to you not only this week, but also into the future as well. Also want to take another quick moment to thank Bob Ruhlman, the principal at Kings, for joining us this week. You've been watching Team Kings. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again in a couple weeks.